lots of NFL news on Monday. Let's start with the quarterbacks. Sam Darnold agreed to a 3-year deal with the Seahawks worth $100.5 million with $55 million guaranteed. Darnold will replace Geno Smith in Seattle. Seahawks agreed to trade Smith to the Raiders a few days ago. Darnold led the Vikings to 14 wins and the playoffs in a breakout season last year. Elsewhere, Justin Fields leaving Pittsburgh for New York and the Jets. Fields agreed to a 2-year deal worth $40 million, $30 million of it guaranteed. Fields is expected to start for the Jets in Week 1 with Tyrod Taylor backing him up and maybe a quarterback from the draft for New York. Move will give Fields a reunion with his top target at Ohio State, receiver Garrett Wilson. In addition to Darnold and Fields, Zach Wilson agreed to a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Dolphins to back up Tua Tagovailoa. There was a rare quarterback trade. The Browns agreed to send Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 5th-round pick to the Eagles for Kenny Pickett. Few quarterbacks still out there, most notably 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson also still available, as is Jameis Winston after he had an up-and-down season in Cleveland last year. Here's Adam Schefter with the latest.
Moves unfold next, it's not out of the question that the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Jets could unofficially wind up trading quarterbacks. When Justin Fields went to the New York Jets, that created an opening in Pittsburgh. And Aaron Rodgers has emerged as a possibility to be the Steelers' starting quarterback next season. The Steelers are waiting to hear from Rodgers. Nobody knows exactly what he will do and what he will decide, but Russell Wilson also is in play. And right now, it feels as if Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are two primary options for the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants. Wherever one quarterback goes, the other quarterback could land in the other spot. But everybody's waiting on Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson as two quarterback dominoes.
Meanwhile, the Washington Commanders significantly improved their offensive line by trading for 5-time Pro Bowl tackle Laremy Tunsil. In exchange, the Houston Texans will get 4 draft picks from Washington, a 3rd and 7 this year and a 2nd and 4th next year. Besides Tunsil, Washington will get a 4th rounder this spring from Houston. Chris Godwin is going back to Tampa Bay. The free agent wide receiver and the Bucs have agreed to a 3-year deal worth $66 million, a deal that includes $44 million and 2 seasons guaranteed. That's what sources tell our Adam Schefter. The 29-year-old Godwin is coming off a season which ended in Week 7 after he dislocated his left ankle, which required surgery. Elsewhere across the league on offense, the Chargers signed former Steelers running back Najee Harris to a 1-year deal. The Cowboys also agreed to a 1-year deal with Javonte Williams. And both Darius Slayton and Joshua Palmer agreed to the same 3-year, $36 million contract, with Slayton returning to the Giants and Palmer heading to Buffalo.
The honor always belongs to the quarterbacks amongst us. A couple QBs finding work on opposite coasts. Coming off his resurgent season, Sam Darnold will be handed the keys to the car in Seattle. It's a 3-year deal worth just over $100 million there, while in East Rutherford, Justin Fields becomes the heir to a vacant throne. The former Bear, by way of Pittsburgh, fetching $40 million over 2 with $30 guaranteed, now a Jet. As for the edge benders, Josh Sweat did himself some monetary favors on Super Bowl Sunday with 2.5 sacks and 6 tackles. The former Bird flying to the desert where he will bolster a pass rush that needs him. It's a 4-year deal for Sweat worth $76 million, who reunites with his former DC, now Cardinal head coach, Jonathan Gannon. Others stayed put, with the Bucs finding common ground with veteran wideout Chris Godwin. The 8-year veteran, who spent the entirety of his career in Tampa, working his way back from a dislocated ankle, but still getting paid. Godwin will earn $22 per over the next 3 seasons, with the first 2 years coming in guarantees. Trades in principle also a part of the tampering, and this one a blockbuster. A massive haul heading from Washington to Houston in return for the 30-year-old tackle in Laremy Tunsil. The Commanders shipping a 3rd and 7th this season, as well as a 2nd and 4th next year for the 5-time Pro Bowler, who will look to shore up protection for the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Here to talk winners and losers. I find myself always a winner when with Bryant McFadden and Emery Hunt. Gentlemen, great to be with you here. As you can see, tampering, we are open for business. Let's dive right in with biggest winner here, Emery, because so much happened across the NFL landscape. Hard to distill it down to one, but who's the one you can't stop thinking about right now?
The Chicago Bears, Joe, and not because I'm on set with you, but this is why. Free agency is about getting better, but also setting the table for what you can do in the draft and just creating those opportunities. We saw what the problem was last year for Chicago, the offensive line, more in particular the interior offensive line. They went out and got 3 legit starters along that interior offensive line. Guard, center, guard is where offense happens. When you think about the Saints teams with Drew Brees, that's where they would thrive, guard, center, guard. And you can get good tackles. I think Braxton Jones at left tackle was the easy target, but guard, center, guard is where they had to get better. They did just that. And on the defense side of football, Dale Adingbo did a great job in his last season, finally healthy with the Indianapolis Colts. He kind of got caught in that weird area of, man, we want to re-sign this guy because he was injured when we got him, and now he's on a trend upwards. And you also bring in Grady Jarrett, who is a tremendous leader and great player for the Atlanta Falcons. The Bears got strong down their battery. I think the Bears have now are open for business at pick number 10 in the NFL draft, giving themselves a wide array of options for them. Great job for Chicago.
Yeah, as someone who often keeps their ear to the ground there in Chicago, pairing some pressure alongside Montez Sweat was a key there. Also shored up a 3 technique coming from Atlanta as well. The center gets locked down. So taking care of things inside out, Ryan Poles definitely focused on the big fellas here with the tampering window open. Your biggest winner, Bryant McFadden, is who?
The New England Patriots. When you came into this offseason with the most cap space available, we had to make sure we monitor. Will you be careless in your spending, or will you really be smart in how you spend the money? Well, so far, they've done a great job in spending this money wisely. Looking at adding a guy in Milton Williams, the most coveted interior defensive lineman in free agency. Only 26 years old, you gave him $26 million. 25 years old, I'm sorry, $26 million. You look at other areas, Carlton Davis, another 3-year deal for $60. Harold Landry, a guy that has been coached by Coach Verbal before with Tennessee. He's another guy that can put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Robert Spillane and Morgan Moses. So you look at them and trying to improve the defense. This was a defense a year ago that only had 104 pressures on opposing quarterbacks. That was 3rd worst. They only had 28 sacks, which was dead last. So clearly the emphasis was get better on the defensive side and find guys that can put pressure on opposing quarterbacks and find guys that can cover against some of these high elite-like wide receivers they will see in 2025. So great job by the New England Patriots in spending their money wisely.
Yeah, checked a lot of boxes and places of need, I will say, of Robert Spillane. Willing tackler. He'll meet you in the hole.
Right.
He'll meet you. I don't know if you see right there. That's the Fenwick Shield. That's a fryer up one time for Robert Spillane, representing the city well. We do need to get to losers here, and oftentimes it's whether you sat on your hands and did not spend the money, or a team that maybe made a move that you didn't love. Emery, who's the one that's got you scratching your head right now, saying, did you really take advantage of the opportunity here on Monday?
I would say the Atlanta Falcons, for whom they lost. Drew Dalman is a huge loss because, not because he's a fantastic center and he helped spearhead their run game and their offense, but you have a young quarterback that you're still breaking in Michael Penix, and that was the other quarterback on the field in your starting center. So now you have to find some way to get that back into the proper side of things for your offense to really flow and function. And on defense, just losing Grady Jarrett, you lose that leadership. I understand they're big fans of Aro, the defensive lineman. Very tough to say, but I think I
applaud
nailed it. You know, and also you have David Onyemata. I love their linebackers. There's a lot of speed and athleticism. This is still a very good defense, but Jarrett, the locker room guy, the leadership is huge in keeping everything tied together, which is probably why they went on that run toward the back end of the season. So we don't know the significance of these 2 losses, but man, I know we have a whole nother spring and summer of free agency to still sign players in the draft on the back end of that. But Atlanta right now, day one, based on who they lost, I say is a loser.
Mac, a thought on Atlanta and then your loser.
Yeah, when you look at Atlanta, losing a guy in Grady Jarrett, he's an ultimate leader on the football field. So now you look at the defense already having concerns. You lose your best defensive lineman, you know, in terms of what he can do in run stopping, not to mention putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So far, Atlanta has really done nothing, to Emery's point. They've lost more than what they've added, not to mention they still have a lot of money tied up in their backup quarterback in Kirk Cousins. So it's going to be very intriguing to see what Atlanta does, because every other team in their division has made moves to improve their team. You can't say the same about the Atlanta Falcons. In terms of my biggest loser, right now in the great state of Texas, down in Houston, they're enjoying the rodeo. Everyone is having fun. They're dancing. They're eating smoked neck bones and turkey wings. They're enjoying themselves. But hearing the news today about them trading away their best offensive lineman might make a few fans in Houston cry. The Houston Texans, they're my biggest loser because of the trade. Now, hear me out. They got a nice haul in return for Laremy Tunsil. You talk about picks this draft and next year's draft as well. But when you talk about losing your best offensive lineman from a below-average offensive line unit last year, and we saw how that hurt the development of their young quarterback in C.J. Stroud, that really makes you scratch your head. You look at C.J. Stroud. He was pressured on 37% of his drop-back passes. That's fifth worst in the National Football League in 2024. He was sacked 54 times. That's third worst in the National Football League. Now you move his best short-handed left tackle, his best offensive lineman, you move him from the organization, and you don't have a guaranteed game plan in place in terms of who will replace him. So me personally, I know draft picks are a high commodity, but did it really make sense in moving a guy, Laremy Tunsil, who's still in the prime of his career, making sure that you can protect your young quarterback? Because one thing we saw in terms of the difference between year one with C.J. Stroud and year two, the inability to stand comfortable in the pocket. Now you move his best friend on the offense in Laremy Tunsil, and who knows who steps into his shoes. But until that happens, right now, they're my biggest loser.
Well, they don't know who it will be just yet, but big shoes to fill, as we saw one of the top 5 pass blockers in this league last year at that position. Going to be hard to find that sort of a sure thing to put next to your franchise quarterback. I'm just picturing C.J. Stroud looking down at the phone. I know there was some news that made us say, wow, today. That was a notification I'm not sure C.J. was looking forward to. We do still have plenty to look forward to with some names still floating out there. Your best available Emory Hunt takes us